Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. This is the best part of my week. We have a handful of people here and almost as many countries as we have attendees right now. We have Alexia in Brazil, Taunga in Malawi, Nan and Heather and myself in the US, Darwin in Zambia, Mustafa in Somalia, Edmund in Sierra Leone, and I might have missed some people. This is the strength and the beauty of Green Team Academy, is that we get to hang out with people from around the world. And so just a quick intro. So Green Team Academy, we empower everyday people to be the change. The main thing that we do is host the International Climate Action Challenge every year. In 2024, we kick off on August 1st. We count on community support to do this. And in fact, that's why we took 2023 off. So it's not just a saying, we really do we rely on contributions and staff and volunteers to come in and help us make this thing happen. So we're excited to be already getting support growing for 2024. And in this session, we're going to be talking about the Climate Action Challenge book. And I think everybody should write a book. And it's so much fun to pour your thoughts and your heart into something and give it as a gift to people around the world. And so that's what we're going to be talking about, is this little book right here. Everyone who does the Climate Action Challenge gets a digital copy. But before we go too far, I just want to introduce my buddy, Nan Holda. She has been a supporter and actively involved with Green Team Academy right from the beginning when we did our first Climate Action Challenge. She joined as a mentor. She's been on our board. She is now an advisory council member. And she has a funny story to tell about herself and this book and how she promotes it. She's like our number one promoter. And so I just wanted to turn it over to Nan to give her perspective on what she does with the book. And then after that, I'm going to do a little bit of reading, and we're also going to do a writing exercise so you can work on telling your story too. So it's going to be fun. So I'll turn it over to Nan.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nan Holda. I'm joining you from Champaign, Illinois, in the United States, and really glad to be here. I love my Green Team Academy family. I love seeing everybody from around the world and everybody who's working hard to combat climate change in their area, whether it's climate action or even my city's neighborhood association meeting or just whatever Zoom I'm on. I always have Joan's Climate Action Challenge book, and it's hard to see with my background here, so sorry about that. I have her Climate Action Challenge book and then the companion workbook at my side at all times, because I found that it's really handy to have those, because people have a lot of passion for wanting to make changes in the world, but they don't always know how to go about it. And sometimes they feel alone and isolated and a little discouraged about trying to make changes. And Joan's books, the book and the workbook, really help with that. Really helps you get together and get a team going and to get partners going to get your project started successfully. And so I will say that I've mentioned this book in all of these meetings: Citizens Climate Lobby, Climate Reality Project, Earth Bill Network, the local chapter of the Sierra Club, Climate Creatives, Third Act, which is part of 350.org, my local university's student sustainability group, Pachamama.org, and then also, as I said, my city's neighborhood associations, because this book, I think, is good for not just climate action, but for anybody who wants to make a change in the world on any sort of a subject, and to encourage you to get a team together and get it done. And I will say that my goal in these meetings, when I'm talking about Joan's book and her workbook, my goal is at the meeting to get people to order the book right then and there. And I'll tell you that a lot of these meetings that I'm at, people are actually, they're like typing away at Amazon.com as I'm talking about the book, and they actually place an order for it, which I think is great, because I think that everybody, like I said, any change maker should have this book and the workbook right at their side like I do. So Joan, that's about all I have to say, but that's my poor book.
That is so perfect. Yeah, it is. It is so awesome because I think one of the things that we're going to jump into is the idea of handling overwhelm. And
Mhm.
that is the saddest thing, to see people that are passionate, that want to do something, and that, like me, have struggled for many decades being ineffective and feeling worse and worse. And the fact is we just don't know how to do it. And it's not that hard once we understand some of the best practices. So thank you so much,
Mhm.
Nan, for doing that. And that's a great tip to be letting other people know about
Well,
it.
always keep them at your side. Get the hard copy, and then always make sure it's right at your side so that when you're at a meeting, you can just, and if somebody's complaining about being disillusioned or disheartened or overwhelmed or whatever, you can just say, here's a book that has a solution for you, and read it and follow the framework, and it'll give you, rejuvenate you and your passions. And also it talks about having fun and the importance of having fun while you're doing these things. So I think that
Yeah,
that's very important.
exactly. Thank you for doing that. I appreciate that. All right. So I wanted to give you a little bit of background on the book. I'm so honored that Derek Mugisha, he's the director of Earth Day Network Africa, that when they reached out to different folks around the world and asked them, what is your top recommended book? Each one was able to submit one for this NBC News article that came out April 2021, shortly after the Climate Action Challenge book was published. And there's 12 books on the list. I was lucky that mine was one of the top ones on the cover. So it looks like it's one of the top three. But it's pretty neat to have that kind of endorsement and have somebody who is working with people around the world that says, here's something, we're not alone, we can make a big impact, and here's how individual committed people start and then grow this kind of network and grow these kind of movements. It was pretty funny because when I was planning this, one of the people that I talked to about it said, are you just going to talk about your book the whole time? When you write a book, in some ways, writing a book, I think people think it's self-serving, but it's actually the other way, because I already know what's in here. I already practice what's in the book. I write the book so that other people don't have to struggle. And when there's something that you feel passionate about, I hope that you will also write a book to summarize the things that you've learned the hard way that you can then be giving as a gift to the world. And the other thing I wanted to mention right here was that in 2021, we had a message from someone named Priya Achabar, who said, I read the Climate Action Challenge book and I work at GE, and we want to do something. We're wondering if you could talk to our Green Team Network. Or no, actually her initial thing was, can I get 40 copies of the book? And so I reached back out and said, hey, let's have a meeting. And in 2022, GE used this. We worked with them and they held their own Climate Action Challenge sponsored by their employee resource group, the Green Team Network. Employee resource group was a very employee directed group that one person got a hold of this, and then that allowed all of GE to do this climate action challenge, which was pretty amazing. And then last year, after is splitting into three different groups, so the GE Healthcare used the book again to work with the healthcare group. When you can be clear about your message and put it out there, then other people can understand what it is that you're saying and get those lessons very quickly. When we do the Climate Action Challenge, everyone that joins gets a digital copy of the book, the workbook, and the video course. And as Nan was saying, a lot of times people feel comfortable just buying things on Amazon. So the book in Kindle and paperback is there in those two formats. And then the workbook is also available in the printed format. What is also cool is that, really thanks to GE, because they were working with people in different parts of the world and wanted and had a little bit more resources, they partnered with us to translate the book into French. So now we have the entire book in English and in French. And as you can see, it's a lot of pages, 375 pages maybe. So that was a big project to get that translated into French. In other years, when we were working with different groups with GE, they asked us to translate the workbook into Brazilian Portuguese, as well as Mandarin and Spanish. So it's pretty exciting to see how once you have a system that is described, it's quite easy to get it out to the rest of the world and see what happens. Some of our other videos, some of our other sessions, we've gone more into what our results have been, but really encourage you whenever you're feeling low to hop over here to the Challenger Stories and see what people from around the world have been able to do in 90 days using this system. It's just one of the neatest things. And we are honored that we're able to reach out to people who a lot of times don't get much recognition of their results. And so we are so excited to be able to learn from people like the Verity Farms team who planted 50,000 seedlings because she is an agriculturalist with one of the local community colleges there. Those kinds of things, these different groups around the world are taking this information and just knocking it out of the park. I know that at this time, with more conflicts breaking out around the world, one of the things that I think is at the root of why more people don't engage, it's not because they don't care, it's because they do care. They do care a lot. And so what I want to do is read you a little bit from this section on handling overwhelm. I'm going to start with something on page 88. I don't really expect you to read along, but this is called How Greta Found Strength. By now, many people know of the young climate activist Greta Thunberg. Her activism started in August 2018 with a simple act of standing in front of the Swedish parliament with a sign that said in Swedish simply, "School strike for the climate." Her commitment to weekly Friday strikes helped lead to a worldwide youth climate strike, building on decades of efforts of youth activists around the world. What many people don't know, and what can help us understand this sticky issue of handling overwhelm, is the backstory. I heard it first in her 2018 TEDx Stockholm talk, just as she was starting to garner worldwide attention. Her family shared more of the story in the book they co-wrote, Our House is on Fire: Scenes of a Family and a Planet in Crisis. Greta is a sensitive kid. As she learned more and more about climate change and species going extinct, she took it all in. Quote, "I was told to turn off the lights to save energy and to recycle paper to save resources," unquote, Greta said. But she understood that those small actions would be nowhere near enough to pull us out of this predicament. She couldn't understand why the people around her school and the world leaders weren't talking about this all the time and acting boldly, as we would if it were wartime. Greta finally imploded. She stopped eating, she stopped laughing, and she stopped talking. The book tells how her family did everything they could to find support for her in the education system, healthcare system, and with mental health professionals. She was crying night and day and on the verge of being admitted to the hospital. In her TEDx talk, Greta said, "I was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome, OCD, and elective mutism. That basically means I only speak when I think it's necessary. Now is one of those moments." What turned things around for Greta was when she decided to start the school strike for the climate. In the book, Our House is on Fire, her family tells how her father hovered nervously at a distance the first few days. He worried for her well-being, seeing her standing alone with her sign. For the previous 2 months, she had barely been able to eat or talk. Yet she found the strength to speak with strangers about the one thing that she was passionate about: protecting the planet. Greta has referred to her autism as her superpower. I think in many ways that we autistic ones are the normal ones and the rest of the people are pretty strange. The key message of Greta's story is that the real danger comes in denying the severity of our situation. When we accept what is actually going on and the urgency and the magnitude of the response that's needed, that opens a window. From that place, we can figure out the next right action. Rather than seeing it as a weakness, Our ability to act starts with our ability to suffer with the world. So there's just one more thing that I want to read. I don't know if you guys know about Joanna Macy. So much of the world's ills are a result of us trying to be comfortable, to find a quick fix for any momentary discomfort. It's like when I get impatient or antsy, within a few minutes, I'm likely to find myself staring into the refrigerator. Or when we're feeling empty inside, the next thing you know, we're ordering something online or reaching for a drink. Just as in therapy, the best place to start is to be there with the pain. This is how the eco-philosopher Joanna Macy says it in the short film, Joanna Macy and the Great Turning. My way of dealing with the overwhelm is to look it straight in the eye and say, there you are again. To realize that we are suffering with our world and not try to pave it over or apologize for it, and not see it as a personal weakness, a personal craziness, but almost to bow to it. You are suffering with your world. It's the most natural thing in the world. It's the most wholesome, healthy thing in the world, too. Don't be afraid of your heart breaking open. The heart that breaks open can hold the whole universe. It's that big. All right, so I'm going to stop with that part for a moment. But I know just as I was driving over here today to get set up, just hearing about the situation in Sudan with 6 million people displaced, just the amount of suffering that is happening in the world, it does seem easier to just turn it off and not think about it. But in that story, like Greta was saying, that's what led her to near ruin. And so if we can really see our heart breaking open as a positive thing and really trust that, like Joanna Macy says, when it breaks open, it can hold the whole universe. I want to read one quick thing here to change things up and give you a little bit more hope of how quickly things can change. And this is on page 38, and it's called India's 45-day water cup. Our whole idea is giving people this opportunity to do a 90-day challenge. And some people think, what can you really do in 90 days? And the thing is, you can do a lot. If you want to see how a challenge can transform a community, carve out some time to binge watch the mind-blowing videos from the Paani, Paani Foundation's Water Cup competition in India. For decades, drought has devastated thousands of villages in the rural state of Maharashtra. According to Paani Foundation, the situation isn't a natural calamity. The crisis is largely caused by humans, by poor management of water and rapid destruction of nature. Paani's idea is that if humans cause the problem, we can solve it too. From 2016 to 2019, Paani hosted the Satyamev Jayate Water Cup competitions in thousands of villages. The goal was to do the best and maximum work for soil and water conservation in 45 days. After receiving training from Paani in watershed management, thousands upon thousands of villagers contributed voluntary labor during the 45-day challenge period. In the videos on the Paani YouTube channel, you'll see women, youth, and men digging and carrying earth to build and repair water conservation structures. They are revitalizing their villages and transforming their watersheds almost overnight. The result of the Water Cup is that people that once ran out of water and relied on tanker trucks for a pittance of water are now able to have reliable water all year long. In addition, the water allows for multiple crop cycles, yielding huge boosts in prosperity and allowing those who had fled to the city to return and prosper in their hometowns. The new water management structures also allow the groundwater to be recharged, reversing the previous trend of having to dig increasingly deeper and more expensive wells to reach water. So when you're thinking about what can you do in 90 days and how can we actually have an impact just getting together, pursuing our ideas, trying to get 100 partners, think of that Paani Water Cup when you're doubting yourself. It's that saying that never doubt, that a small group of thoughtful citizens, I would say residents, can change the world. In fact, nothing else has. The last thing that I want to do is to invite you to do as a writing exercise you could do later. But right now, I want you to think about your hero's journey. When you are trying to impress people with your story, like I see Chris Woodburn is here. I know Chris's story of how he got to be the community gardens coordinator for Denver Public Schools because he's told his story, and it impresses when you tell people your story. They remember you, they remember your passion, they remember your struggles, they feel how much you care about this because they know all the hurdles and the times and the synchronicities and the joy that occurred to get you to that place. It's not just, hey, plant more pollinator plants. If you just tell somebody something like that without this context of your hero's journey story, then it often falls on deaf ears. Think right now about your story of where you are right now and how did you get there, and to think about it in three parts. Your origin is describe where you started out, the initial cultural idea, and when you decided to venture out onto your own. What was the milieu that you were surrounded in? Step two is challenges and adventures. What did you do? You went out, you tried things, it didn't work, you had adventures, you met people, you saw new ideas, you got distracted, you got waylaid, you got helped. There's this middle part where you go through all the drama, and then by the end you're like, wait a second, I got it, I got something. And then part three is your return. So this is where you state the key thing that you've discovered, and you share why you're so passionate about sharing this wisdom, this new way of working. You're basically trying to share the lessons learned so that other people don't have to go through that. Another way to think of it, Russell Brunson, he recommends something called the Epiphany Bridge story. And the idea is you start off in one vehicle, you're in your family setting or your work setting, you're in a certain kind of vehicle, you go, but you can only go so far. You run into a wall. You need to now get out of that vehicle, try some different things, try and get over that wall, see what's on the other side. And then once you are, then you need to figure out how to bring that message back. What I would like you to do is I'm going to see if anybody wants to share their hero's journey story. It would be a very short thing in this setting, just the 3 points, just to get you thinking about it. And hopefully this is something that you could spend a little bit more time doing. With this, I'm going to go ahead and stop our streaming to Facebook. I'm going to stop our recording, but for anybody that's out there, we just invite you to join our sessions, to join our community, so you can have this beautiful part of your day where you get to meet people from around the world that are doing cool things. And we welcome your contributions, whether that's your time, your energy, connection, or financial. So thanks so much, and we will see you soon.